They spent over $300,000 on a wedding, live jazz band, imported champagne, a crystal chandelier flown in from Italy, and when I begged them, on my knees, to help save my daughter's life, they said, "We've already spent the money." That night, I walked out of their mansion with nothing in my hands but my child's medical records. 3 days later, my in-laws sold their home to cover the surgery. Today, my daughter is alive. And now, the same people who turned their backs on her are standing outside my office, asking for my help. My name is Grace Whitman. I'm 32 years old, and this is the story of how I stopped begging for love from the wrong people and built a new family out of nothing but gratitude, grit, and one little girl's heartbeat. Have you ever had to choose between peace and blood, between forgiveness and boundaries? Would you ever help the ones who refuse to help you? Leave a comment. I want to hear your story, and if you've ever had to walk away to protect the ones you love most, stay with me, because this isn't just about revenge. It's about redemption. And what happens when the people who once turned their backs on you come crawling back? My name is Grace Whitman. I live in Seattle, Washington. I run a small interior design company that specializes in transforming compact spaces, tiny homes, hole-in-the-wall cafes, into places that feel like a warm exhale. Not luxury, not showpieces, just comfort. I built the company from scratch, with a secondhand laptop and a heart full of ideas. These days, I manage to make enough to support my husband Ryan and our daughter Ava, 8 years old, the kind of child who draws hearts on every lunchbox note and asks if clouds get tired from floating all day. She's the best part of my world, but the world I came from was built on cold polish, on image, on silence. My parents, Victor and Evelyn Whitman, have always been obsessed with appearances. My father ran a high-end furniture store in downtown Seattle, and my mother floated from gallery brunch to charity gala with designer handbags and rehearsed grace. They weren't rich by inheritance. They clawed their way up from modest beginnings. But once they made it, they clung to status like it was oxygen. From the outside, we were the perfect family. But inside, everything tilted toward my younger brother, Nate. He was charming, handsome, the kind of man who knew how to make a room lean toward him. And he never had to ask for love. It just poured his way like rain. I was different. I was quiet, serious, more books than banter. When I got a perfect score on my 8th grade math final, my mother looked up from her espresso and said, "Good, you did what was expected." When Nate got a B+ in history, they threw a dinner party. I remember standing in the kitchen, watching them light candles for his achievement like it was a national holiday. No one noticed I hadn't even taken off my backpack. I stopped hoping for attention after that. I got into college on my own, paid my way through architecture school with part-time shifts at a bookstore and late-night freelance sketches. And when I opened my first design studio, a rented corner inside a shared office space, I emailed them the news. My father replied, "Hope it works out." My mother didn't reply at all. Meanwhile, when Nate got a sales position at a local real estate firm, my parents hosted a formal cocktail party. The invitation described him as a rising star in the city's property market. I went. Not for him, not for them, but because I knew if I didn't, they'd spin it into more proof that I was the family's disappointment. I brought Nate a gift, an engraved pen, something classic and personal. He set it aside without looking, too busy flashing his new smartwatch from Mom and Dad. I said nothing. I never did. I think at some point, I stopped feeling hurt and started feeling numb. I accepted that I was never going to be their favorite, never going to be enough, so I turned away from trying. I built a life with Ryan, who didn't care about my pedigree or my lack of one. We fell in love over a conversation about light, how soft bulbs can make a room feel like a memory. We got married in a courthouse with 2 friends and a potted plant. And then Ava came into our lives. She had Ryan's warm smile and my eyes, wide, curious, observant. She was healthy, joyful, always painting little cards for strangers and asking impossible questions like, "Where does music go when it stops?" We weren't rich. Our apartment was small, but we were safe. I had love. There was just one thing I hadn't done. Health insurance. It was always on the list. But the premiums were high, our income wasn't consistent. And we were young, healthy, we thought we had time. We didn't. Because one day, Ava coughed, and then she kept coughing, and then everything changed. It started as a cough, light, persistent, something that seemed more annoying than alarming. It was early autumn, and the Seattle wind had started to bite. Ava still ran around the apartment in her socks, reading picture books aloud to her stuffed animals. Still begged for mac and cheese every night. But at night, her breath changed. Shallow, labored. She'd wake up clutching her chest, confused, whispering, "Mommy, it feels tight in here." We brought her to a walk-in clinic. The doctor said it was likely bronchitis, gave us a prescription, told us to rest. But I saw the way he looked at her when he thought we weren't watching, that flicker of concern. It lodged itself into my chest and didn't leave. 2 weeks later, Ava was drawing on the rug when she suddenly stopped, dropped her crayon, and looked up at me, eyes wide and glassy. "Mom," she whispered. My heart's beating too fast. I dropped everything. Ryan carried her to the car while I sat in the back seat, holding her small frame against mine, trying not to shake. We drove to the city hospital. Blood work, scans, endless waiting beneath harsh fluorescent lights. 3 hours passed before the doctor returned. He looked serious. He spoke slowly, deliberately. "There's a mass on her left lung. Likely benign, but it's pressing against her airway. If we don't remove it soon, things could get critical." My ears buzzed. I clutched the sides of the chair just to stay upright. "Does she need surgery?" I asked. He nodded. "As soon as possible, within 3 days. Then he said it. The number. Estimated cost, $98,000, including post-operative care. I couldn't breathe. We didn't have insurance. We had talked about getting it after the next project. Always after. Our total savings? $30,000. Maybe a little more. Not even close. Ryan was quiet. His jaw clenched. I saw the way he avoided my eyes. Not from guilt, from fear. We were both already calculating what we could sell. That night, we sat by Ava's bedside. The monitors beeped softly. Her little chest rose and fell, too slowly. I tried the bank. Emergency loan denied. Our credit wasn't strong enough. I posted online, explained what had happened, asked if anyone could help. Some people shared the post. A few messaged their support. But time was moving too fast. We had 3 days. We needed nearly $70,000 more. At 2:11 a.m., I stood outside the hospital's family restroom, staring at the cracked tile floor. My hands trembled as I pulled out my phone. I scrolled past every contact until I landed on one name: Mom. I hadn't asked them for anything in over a decade. Not for help, not for advice, not for comfort. But this wasn't for me. It was for Ava. I dialed. She picked up on the 4th ring, her voice crisp and rehearsed. "Emily, why are you calling so late?" I swallowed. Then I spoke. "Ava's in the hospital. She needs emergency surgery. We can't afford it. Mom, please, I'm begging you. She's your granddaughter." There was silence on the other end, a long, hollow pause. And then, "Well, this is really unfortunate timing. Your father and I are hosting Nate's engagement party next week. Everything's already booked. It would be too disruptive to reschedule now." I blinked. "No one's asking you to cancel the party. I'm asking for help. Just part of it. I'll pay it back, every dollar." She sighed, and then her voice shifted. Cold, final. "I'm sorry, Grace, but we can't let a personal issue damage the family's reputation." Click. I stood in that hallway, phone still pressed to my ear, long after the line went dead. And something inside me shattered, not from the rejection, but from the realization that I'd still hoped. That even after everything, I still believed they might choose Ava. But they didn't. They chose Nate's party. They chose lobster canapes and monogrammed napkins. And in that moment, I knew I would never ask them for anything again. The next morning, Ava stirred in her hospital bed, still half asleep. Her lips were pale, her breath shallow. I sat beside her, holding her hand, wondering if I had failed her, wondering if being born into the wrong family had somehow passed down to her too. Ryan brought me a coffee. Neither of us drank it. By noon, we had sold my design tablet, our living room couch, and Ryan's guitar. Still not enough. Still tens of thousands short. That evening, I did something I promised myself I would never do again. I went to their house. The Whitman estate sat on a hill overlooking the bay. White pillars, marble floors, velvet drapes. My childhood home, though it never felt like one. The driveway was lined with luxury cars. String lights twinkled along the hedges. Laughter spilled from the backyard. I didn't need to ask. I already knew. It was Nate's rehearsal dinner. I walked past the valet, past the guests with champagne flutes, past the flower arrangements that probably cost more than our monthly rent. I found my mother by the fountain, surrounded by well-dressed women with artificial smiles and expensive perfume. She saw me. Her face tightened. "Grace," she said sharply, "I'm entertaining. This is not the time." I didn't flinch. I opened the folder I had carried the whole way. Medical scans, test results, the surgery estimate. "It's Ava," I said. "She needs the surgery. We've sold everything. We're still short. Please, just help with a portion. Anything." She glanced down, then around, checking to see who was watching. "This is Nate's celebration," she whispered. "We've spent months planning this. Do you know how it would look if we started discussing hospitals and surgeries right now?" I didn't answer. I just stood there, holding my daughter's future in a manila folder. And then I heard a voice behind me. It was Nate, dressed in a navy blue tux, holding a crystal glass. He laughed. Actually laughed. "You're serious? Because you didn't plan ahead? Now we're supposed to cancel everything for your mistake?" I turned to face him. His smile didn't reach his eyes. "You're not the only one with responsibilities," he added. "I'm about to start a family too." I looked at him and saw it. The entitlement, the detachment. He didn't care. "I'm not asking for your wedding," I said. "I'm asking to save your niece." He shrugged. "That's not my problem." I turned back to my parents, my voice shaking, but no longer from fear, from fury. "She's your granddaughter. If your own blood means this little to you, then maybe you were never my family to begin with." My father stepped forward, his jaw clenched. "Grace," he said in that condescending tone I knew so well, "you're making a scene. Go home. We'll talk when emotions have settled." "I don't have time for that," I said. "Ava doesn't have time." He turned his back to me. That was it. That was the moment. The switch flipped. The cord snapped. Whatever thread I'd been hanging on to, it unraveled completely. I nodded, gathered the folder, and walked out of the house that raised me. Not a single person followed. No one called my name. No one asked if Ava was okay. They returned to their laughter, their shrimp cocktail, their celebration. And I returned to the hospital. Not as a daughter anymore. Not as a sister. But as a mother with nothing left to lose. I walked into Ava's hospital room that night like a different person. My hands were empty, but my mind was full. Full of plans, calculations, desperation. She lay asleep, an oxygen tube taped to her cheek. I bent down and kissed her forehead. Then I whispered, "I promise, baby, we'll find a way." The next morning, Ryan and I listed everything we had. Our TV, my laptop, his pickup truck, same one we'd driven to our honeymoon in. People came and went. Some asked if we were moving. I just nodded. In 3 days, we scraped together $29,000. Still short, far too short. I called everyone I had ever worked with, every old classmate, every distant friend. Some didn't answer. Some offered thoughts and prayers. But then there were others. Anna, my roommate from college, now a music teacher in Tacoma. She wired $500. "It's all I have this month," she wrote. "But Ava's life matters more." Travis, a young designer at my firm, only been with us for 4 months. He came into my office, set down an envelope. "I was going to buy a new laptop today," he said quietly. "But I think Ava needs this more." $320. I hugged him. I couldn't speak. I didn't have to. Then came neighbors, old clients, even people I'd only met once at trade shows. They gave what they could, $20, $50, $100. It still wasn't enough. We were 40,000 short, and time was draining like water through cracked fingers. I started researching high-interest lenders, predatory loans, second mortgages, anything. My heart felt like it was constantly racing, faster than Ava's when she whispered, "Mommy, it's beating too fast." I didn't sleep. I couldn't. And then, late one night, the hospital room door creaked open. It was Ryan's parents, Carol and Fred. They weren't wealthy. They lived in a modest home on the edge of the city. A single-story ranch house with creaky floors and hand-me-down furniture. Carol walked over and kissed Ava's forehead, then turned to me. Tomorrow morning, she said, you and Ryan come by the house. We need to talk. The next day we drove across town. The house looked emptier. The living room couch was gone. So were the framed photos that usually lined the hallway. Fred sat us down at the dining table. He placed a stack of papers in front of me. I picked them up, read the bold header, Property Sale Agreement. Sale price, $136,000. I looked up, stunned. Why? I asked. Carol smiled, eyes brimming. This house gave us a beautiful life, but Ava only has one life. If we had to choose between this roof and her heartbeat, we'd give it up 1,000 times. My throat tightened. I couldn't speak. They had already sold the house, already packed their things. Fred stood beside me, his weathered hand on my shoulder. Family, he said, is who shows up when it matters. 3 days later, we had the full amount. The hospital scheduled the surgery for the next morning, 6 hours. 6 hours that felt like a lifetime. I sat in the waiting room holding a beaded necklace Ava had made me for my birthday. It read, Best Mom Ever. The plastic beads were sticky and worn, but I gripped them like they were made of gold. When the surgeon walked out, his face calm, I didn't breathe. Then he smiled, nodded. The surgery was a success, he said. She's going to be okay. I collapsed into the chair. Tears ran down my face, not from fear anymore, from something I hadn't felt in days. Hope. Real, solid, undeniable hope. Ava had made it, and I would never forget what it took. After the surgery, Ava stayed in the hospital for 9 more days. Each one felt like a gift. Her color returned. Her laugh returned. She started drawing again, her favorite thing. She sketched a sun with smiling eyes and gave it to me. That's you, Mommy, she said. You're the sun. I wanted to fall apart and stay strong at the same time. Instead, I kissed her forehead and whispered, No, baby, that's you. But I wasn't done, because I had promised her something, that we would never need to beg again. So I went back to work, with a new kind of fire in my bones, not from anger, from gratitude. I woke up at 4:30 every morning, rebuilt my company from the ground up, streamlined every process, fired inefficient vendors, hired young talent. I enrolled in a weekend business course, learned everything I had skipped in the name of survival: negotiation, digital marketing, scalable growth. By month 6, I had tripled our client list. We landed our first hotel project, then a boutique spa, then a luxury condo tower in Bellevue. The press started to notice. Modern Northwest magazine featured us on their front page. Grace Whitman, the mother who built her empire, brick by brick. I didn't feel like a hero. I felt stable, focused, at peace. Then came the interview request. A national talk show called Voices of Resilience wanted me to tell our story. I hesitated. Ryan encouraged me. Ava made a drawing of me behind a microphone and said, You have to, you're brave now. So I went. On the show, I told the story, from the cough, to the silence, to the people who stood up for us when no one else would. I never said any names, but I told the truth. When the host asked, If you could speak to the people who abandoned you at your lowest, what would you say? I paused. Then I looked into the camera and said, Thank you. Because of you, I learned who my real family was. The ones who chose me, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. The clip went viral, 500,000 shares in 2 days. And then, everything I thought I had left behind came rushing back. People connected the dots, my last name, the design firm, the timeline. A viral post appeared with the headline, Parents spend $300K on wedding, refuse to save dying granddaughter, daughter becomes millionaire. Comments exploded. Screenshots of Nate's LinkedIn page circulated. His now deleted post bragging about the cost of his engagement ring. $330,000. Customers boycotted my parents' furniture store. Suppliers cut ties. Former party guests deleted photos. I didn't post anything, didn't respond. I simply watched the storm unfold, calmly. Then one evening, I got a letter, not an email, not a voicemail, a letter, neatly folded, yellow paper, my mother's handwriting. Grace, we've lost everything. The store is closing. Nate's wedding is off. The bank is seizing the house. I'm not writing to blame you. I'm writing to ask, please, if there's any kindness left in you, help us. We were wrong. I read it twice, then 3 more times. Ryan sat beside me on the couch, silent. Ava was sleeping, the night was still, and I whispered, "They finally came back." He looked at me. "And what do you want to do?" I didn't answer right away. I didn't know. All I knew was, the people who had once laughed when I begged were now on the other side, holding empty hands. 2 days after I read the letter, I invited them to my office. Not out of revenge, not to humiliate them, but because if I was going to answer, I wanted them to look me in the eye. The conference room on the 3rd floor was bright with winter light. Ava's drawing of our family hung on the wall, stick figures and hearts. Ryan stood silently by the door. My assistant placed a black leather case on the table. Inside was exactly $200,000, neatly stacked, unmarked. My parents walked in, slower than I remembered. My father's hair had gone gray. My mother's once perfect posture had shrunk. She wore a coat too big for her. No pearls, no lipstick. They sat down. I said nothing at first. Neither did they. Finally, I opened the case, pushed it toward them. "This is what you need to keep your home," I said. "But before you take it, I want you to hear me." They looked up, eyes glassy, hands trembling. "This is not a loan. You don't owe me anything. I don't want calls or visits or holidays together." My mother opened her mouth. I raised my hand. "This isn't out of love. It's not forgiveness. It's so that Ava never has to wonder if I became like you." I stood. "You'll take this money, and from the moment you walk out that door, we are done." My father didn't speak. He just looked down. My mother tried. She always did. "Grace," she choked, "we're still your family." I looked at her, calm, steady. "No, family is who sells their house to save your child, not who raises a glass while you beg to keep her alive." I nodded to my assistant. "Escort our guests out." And just like that, the chapter closed, quietly, without a bang. No vengeance, no applause, just silence. But inside me, something shifted. I wasn't hollow, I wasn't angry, I was free. After that day, I never heard from them again. No letters, no apologies. And I didn't need any. Because I had already found my real family. Anna, the friend who gave up her rent money, she's now running her dream music school. I helped her open the doors myself. Travis, the young designer. He got a full scholarship to the Chicago Institute of Art and Design. We still email. He calls me his second mother. As for Carol and Fred, Ryan's parents, the ones who sold their home, on Carol's birthday we brought them back to it. The exact same house, bought quietly under my name, refurnished, restored. When she saw the key, she cried. When Fred hugged me, he didn't say anything. He didn't have to. That was love. That was family, and now. We live in a warm house on the edge of Seattle. Not big, not flashy, but full of laughter. Ryan cooks on Sundays. Carol teaches Ava how to grow herbs in the backyard. Fred and Ava build puzzles on rainy afternoons. I work from a sunroom with a view of the hills. And every night, before bed, Ava hugs me and says, "Mom, you're my favorite person in the whole world." I don't live for revenge. I live for that. For quiet mornings, for drawing paper and sticky kisses, for the family I chose. Sometimes I wonder if they'll reach out again. Victor, Evelyn, even Nate. And I don't know what I'll do then, but I know this much. I won't answer out of guilt. I won't answer from pain. If I answer at all, it will be from peace. Because I have nothing left to prove. Not to them, not to anyone. What would you have done in my place? If the people who once looked away while your child fought to breathe came back, asking for your help, would you answer? Would you forgive? For a long time, I thought forgiveness meant pretending it never happened. Now I know better. Forgiveness doesn't mean erasing the past. It means choosing not to carry it forward. I didn't help them out of love. I helped them because I had already let go. Because I had built something stronger. A new family. One built not on blood, but on kindness, sacrifice, and real, unshakable love. My daughter is alive because of people who owed me nothing and gave me everything. And now, every morning when I wake up and hear Ava's laughter from the kitchen, I know that walking away from what broke me was the first step to becoming someone whole. So now I'll ask you, what would you do if the people who hurt you asked you for mercy? Would you give it, or would you protect your peace? Let me know in the comments, truly, because maybe your story is still being written, and the ending is still yours to choose. And if this story touched you, if it reminded you of something you've lived through or are still facing, don't forget to subscribe to Ian True Tales. Here we share real stories. Stories that heal, challenge, and remind us we are not alone. Your story matters too.